Most men talk about power. The top 1% simply take it. You've been lied to. Everything you were taught about success, respect, and influence, designed to keep you compliant, comfortable, controllable. The men who run boardrooms, command loyalty, and bend reality to their will? They don't follow the rules you were given. They follow a different code. An older one. One that Machiavelli whispered about in dark Renaissance corridors. One that Robert Greene decoded from centuries of conquest and manipulation. And today, you're going to learn it. But understand this first. What you're about to hear isn't motivational. It won't make you feel good. It's simply the truth about how power actually works. How the 1% think. How they move. How they win. Most people will never hear this. They'll spend their lives wondering why they're overlooked, outmaneuvered, forgotten. You won't be one of them. Not after today. Let's begin. Rule 1. Never show your full hand. Ever. Watch a master negotiator. A true player of the game. They reveal information the way a gambler reveals cards. Slowly. Strategically. Only when it serves them. You think transparency builds trust? In your personal life, maybe. In the arena of power? It builds predictability. And predictable men get used. The psychology here is simple. Human beings fear what they cannot fully understand. When people can't read you completely, when there's always something held back, something they can't quite access, their minds fill that gap with respect, with caution, with imagination that makes you more powerful than you actually are. Machiavelli understood this. He wrote, "Everyone sees what you appear to be, few experience what you really are." The gap between appearance and reality is where your power lives. Think about the people you respect most. The ones who carry real weight. You'll notice something. You never quite know everything about them. There's always a layer you haven't accessed. A depth you can only sense but never fully measure. That unknowability is not accidental. It's engineered. The moment someone can fully predict you, they stop respecting you. They start managing you. They begin treating you like a known variable in their equation. And known variables don't command premium value. Your unpredictability is your insurance policy. Not the chaotic kind. The calculated kind. They should know you're capable. They should know you're reliable. But they should never be certain what you'll do next. In practice. At work, don't explain every detail of your strategy. Give them the outcome, not the blueprint. In social settings, don't overshare your plans, your fears, your full history. Mystery creates gravity. People orbit what they can't fully grasp. Your boss doesn't need to know you're looking at other opportunities until you have the offer. Your competitors don't need to know your next move until it's already in motion. Your circle doesn't need to know every insecurity you're working through. But here's the warning. Withholding isn't the same as lying. Keep your word when you give it. The moment they catch you in deception, the mystery collapses into distrust. And trust, once broken, gives you no leverage at all. The powerful speak less, reveal less, promise less, and somehow, they're heard more. Rule 2. Master your reactions. Control the room by controlling yourself. The man who loses his composure loses the game. Every single time. This is about emotional sovereignty. The 1% understand something most people never learn. Your emotions are not you. They're signals. Data. Useful, yes. But not orders you must obey. When someone insults you and you explode, they just took control of your nervous system with a few words. You're no longer steering yourself. They are. When your boss criticizes you and you visibly deflate, You just showed them exactly how to diminish you whenever they need to. Stoicism wasn't philosophy for philosophers. It was training for emperors. Marcus Aurelius didn't write meditations for enlightenment. He wrote them for survival at the top. The psychological principle is called emotional contagion. Humans unconsciously mirror the emotional state of the most dominant person in the room. If you're calm, they become calm. If you're reactive, they become reactive. And whoever sets the emotional temperature controls the interaction. In application, meeting gets heated. Everyone's talking over each other. You lean back. Lower your voice. Slow your breathing. Watch what happens. The room unconsciously adjusts to match you. Suddenly you're not just participating. You're conducting. Someone disrespects you publicly. The amateur reacts immediately, escalates, makes a scene. The professional pauses. Looks at them. Waits just long enough for the silence to become uncomfortable. Then responds with precision, not emotion. The room remembers who stayed in control. But there's a shadow side here. Suppressing emotion isn't mastery. It's repression. And repressed men eventually detonate. True control means feeling the anger, the frustration, the fear, and choosing not to be ruled by it. Acknowledge it privately. Process it later. But never, ever let them see you break in the moment. The 1% have discovered something unsettling. The person who cares less, or at least appears to care less, holds more cards than the person who's desperate to be understood. Ice doesn't beg fire for validation. It simply is. Rule 3. Make your presence felt before you speak. Words are cheap. Presence is priceless. You've seen this man. He enters a room and conversation shifts. Not because he's loud. Not because he demands attention. Because something about his energy forces acknowledgement. This isn't charisma. Charisma is likability. This is gravity. The science behind this is neurological. Human beings are pattern recognition machines constantly scanning for status and threat. We make threat assessments in milliseconds based on body language, eye contact, spatial awareness, movement quality. Before you've said a word, they've already decided where you rank. Most men negotiate their presence. They apologize with their posture. They ask permission with their eyes. They shrink to make others comfortable. The top 1% take space unapologetically. Not aggressively. Unapologetically. There's a difference. Aggressive presence says, I'm trying to dominate you. Unapologetic presence says, I belong here and I don't require your confirmation. Practical application. When you enter a room, don't rush. Move with intention. Make eye contact with people, hold it for a second longer than comfortable, then release. Don't fill silence with nervous chatter. Let the silence exist. Silence in the hands of a confident man becomes weight. When you sit, take your space. Don't sprawl like you're trying to prove something. But don't compress yourself either. Sit like you're exactly where you're meant to be. When you speak, speak from your chest, not your throat. Projection isn't volume. It's resonance. A whisper can carry more authority than a shout if it comes from the right place. The danger. This can tip into theatrics. Into performance. And people smell performance. Real presence comes from internal certainty, not external performance. You can't fake this long term. You have to believe you deserve the space you occupy. The men who command rooms don't announce themselves. The room announces them. Rule 4. Asterisk asterisk. Be useful, but never indispensable. This is Machiavelli at his most dangerous. The moment you become irreplaceable, you become a target. Think about it. If everything depends on you, you can never be promoted. You can never leave. You can never make a mistake. You've built yourself a golden cage. Meanwhile, the person who is valuable but not irreplaceable? They have options. Mobility. Leverage. The psychology here cuts deep. Organizations don't reward dependency. They exploit it. The man they can't function without is the man they can't afford to advance. Why would they? He's too critical where he is. But the man who builds systems, who trains others, who makes himself replaceable, he proves he can operate at the next level. He demonstrates scalability. Look at history. The advisors who made themselves indispensable to kings? They were the first to be eliminated when the king felt threatened. The ones who shared knowledge, who built institutions. They became legends. Their influence outlived them by centuries. Your knowledge hoarded is your prison. Your knowledge distributed is your legacy. The insecure guard information like treasure. The confident multiply it through others. And the system always values the multiplier over the hoarder. In practice, at work, document everything. Train your replacement before you need one. Build processes that work without you. This isn't weakness. This is strategic freedom. In relationships, bring value, but maintain your own identity. The partner who has no life outside the relationship becomes suffocating. The partner who brings richness from their own pursuits becomes magnetic. In social circles, be the person people want around, not the person they need to function. Need creates resentment. Want creates desire. But here's the subtle trap. You must remain valuable while becoming replaceable. It's a razor's edge. Too replaceable and you're forgotten. Too indispensable and you're imprisoned. The solution: be excellent at what you do. Be known for your excellence. But build systems and people around you who can carry forward your work. That's how leaders rise. That's how empires are built. The most powerful position isn't being the only one who can do something. It's being the one who can do it best, while ensuring it can be done without you. Freedom and power require the same thing. Options. Rule 5. Associate with the powerful. Disassociate from the weak. This will offend people. Good. Truth often does. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Not metaphorically. Literally. Your neural pathways, your language patterns, your beliefs about what's possible. They synchronize with your environment. Machiavelli didn't write this as moral advice. He wrote it as survival instruction. Men sooner forget the death of their father than the loss of their patrimony. People remember what you can do for them, not what you feel for them. The psychological mechanism is called social proof and reference group theory. We calibrate our sense of normal based on who surrounds us. If everyone around you is mediocre, mediocrity becomes your ceiling. If everyone around you is exceptional, exceptional becomes your baseline. Look around you right now. The conversations you're having. The standards you're accepting. The behaviors you're tolerating. That's not just your present. That's your future. Your circle doesn't just influence you. It programs you. Every compromise they make becomes a compromise you consider. Every excuse they accept becomes an excuse you internalize. The uncomfortable truth? Most people will resent your growth. Not because they're evil. Because your evolution is a mirror to their stagnation. When you start demanding more from yourself, you inadvertently expose what they're not demanding from themselves. And people hate that mirror. This is why rising often means leaving people behind. Not with cruelty. Not with announcement. Just with distance. You'll outgrow rooms you used to fit in. Conversations that once satisfied you will start feeling empty. People you once relied on will start feeling like anchors. Watch the powerful closely. They don't keep everyone. They're selective, intentional, almost surgical about who gets access to their time, their energy, their trust. This isn't elitism. This is self-preservation. Your peer group determines your trajectory more than your talent ever will. Talent surrounded by mediocrity atrophies. Average ability surrounded by excellence elevates. The environment wins. Every single time. In application, audit your circle ruthlessly. Who pulls you forward? Who holds you back? This isn't about being cruel. It's about being strategic. The friend who constantly complains but never acts? Minimize exposure. The colleague who gossips and politics instead of produces? Professional distance. The family member who mocks your ambition? Love them from afar. Meanwhile, find proximity to people operating at the level you're trying to reach. Not to use them. To absorb how they think. How they move. How they solve problems. The 1% didn't become the 1% in isolation. They built networks of other exceptional people. They had mentors who saw potential. They had peers who challenged them. They had subordinates who executed their vision. But here's the critical nuance. Don't abandon people because they're struggling. Abandon them because they're stagnant. Struggle with direction is noble. Stagnation with excuses is poison. And never, ever be the smartest person in the room permanently. If you are, you're in the wrong room. The powerful understand something uncomfortable. Loyalty to individuals who drag you down is just another form of self-sabotage dressed up as virtue. Be kind. Be compassionate. But be strategic about who gets your time. Your time is the only non-renewable resource you have. Spend it with people who multiply it, not drain it. Rule 6. Asterisk asterisk. Create value. Capture value. In that order. Most men do this backwards. They try to take before they've given. Try to extract before they've built. And then they wonder why doors close. The 1% play a longer game. First, they make themselves valuable. They solve problems. They deliver results. They become the person people need. Only then do they negotiate their worth. The psychology is reciprocity. Robert Cialdini proved this. When you give value first, you create a psychological debt. Not a manipulative one. A natural one. People want to reciprocate. They want balance restored. But most people give and never collect. They're the perpetual nice guy. Useful, reliable, taken for granted. They create value but never capture it. This is where Machiavellian strategy enters. After you've proven your worth, you must advocate for yourself. Not arrogantly. Not desperately. Factually. Think about the merchant in Renaissance Florence. He didn't demand payment before delivering goods. But he also didn't continue delivering to those who never paid. He understood the dance. Give first. Prove quality. Build trust. Then extract fair compensation. The merchants who demanded everything up front were avoided. The merchants who gave everything for free went bankrupt. The powerful know something most people miss. Generosity without boundaries isn't virtue. It's weakness dressed up as kindness. And the world doesn't reward weakness. It exploits it. Watch how this plays out in real time. The consultant who gives away all their expertise in the discovery call never gets hired. Why would they? You just solved their problem for free. The employee who works unpaid overtime constantly never gets the promotion. You've already proven you'll do more for less. Value is only valuable when it's contained. When it has borders. When it comes with terms. The river that flows everywhere nourishes nothing. The river with banks creates civilizations. Here's the part that makes people uncomfortable. You have to be willing to walk away from those who take but never give. Not with anger. Not with resentment. With the calm certainty that your value deserves recognition. The client who always asks for discounts? Fire them. The relationship where you're always giving and never receiving? End it. The job that takes everything and offers nothing? Leave it. The marketplace, the social hierarchy, the entire structure of power. It all responds to one thing. Perceived value. And perceived value comes from scarcity combined with quality. You can be the highest quality person in the room. But if you're infinitely available, infinitely accommodating, infinitely willing to give without receiving, you've made yourself abundant. And abundant things are cheap. In practice, at work, exceed expectations first. Deliver the project early. Solve the problem no one else could. Make yourself undeniable. Then, and only then, negotiate the raise, the promotion, the equity. In business, give free value to build trust. The valuable content. The sample. The consultation. Then convert that trust into transaction. In relationships, be the partner who enriches life, who brings peace, adventure, growth. Then expect reciprocity. If it doesn't come, you have information. The trap is timing. Create value too long without capturing it. You're a servant. Try to capture value before you've created it. You're a parasite. The equilibrium is delicate. Create, prove, deliver. Then position yourself to receive. And here's what separates the top 1% from everyone else. They understand that creating value isn't about hours worked. It's about impact delivered. The employee who works 80 hours a week on low-impact tasks is less valuable than the employee who works 30 hours on high-leverage activities. Work smart and hard. But make sure what you're working on actually matters. The most dangerous position in any economy is being busy but not valuable. Rule 7. Asterisk. Never let them see you need them more than they need you. This is the law of leverage in human form. Desperation is blood in the water. The moment people sense you need them more than they need you, the terms change. Always in their favor. This doesn't mean you can't need people. Humans are social creatures. Interdependence is natural. But the appearance of need? That's a tactical error. The psychology is based on scarcity and abundance mindset. People value what seems scarce and dismiss what seems abundant. If you appear desperate for their approval, their time, their opportunity, they unconsciously devalue you. Think about dating. The person who texts constantly, who's always available, who rearranges their entire life for someone they barely know, they're rarely the one who's pursued. Why? They've demonstrated low value through overavailability. The person who has their own life, their own mission, their own standards, they become magnetic. Not because they're playing games. Because they genuinely have options. In professional settings, never walk into a negotiation acting like this is your only option. Even if it is, never show it. The employer who senses you're desperate will lowball you. The client who knows you need them will squeeze you. Always have a backup plan. Or at least the appearance of one. But here's the ethical line. This isn't about manipulation. It's about self-respect. You should genuinely be building a life where no single person, job, or opportunity can destroy you. That's not tactics. That's wisdom. Practical application. When negotiating, have your walk-away point clear before you enter the room. And be genuinely willing to walk. Most people negotiate from hope. The powerful negotiate from options. In relationships, maintain your independence. Your hobbies. Your friends. Your purpose. not as leverage, as life. A healthy relationship should enhance your life, not become your entire life. The danger is becoming too detached, too unavailable. There's a difference between having self-respect and being incapable of vulnerability. The most powerful people can be vulnerable with the right people at the right times. But they choose when. They choose with whom. The frame is simple. You're willing to collaborate. You're open to partnership. But you're also perfectly fine walking alone. That energy, that genuine self-sufficiency, is what makes people want to walk with you. Scarcity creates value. Desperation destroys it. Rule 8. Asterisk. Speak with precision. Silence is better than noise. The average person speaks to fill space. The powerful speak to create impact. Every word you say either adds to your credibility or subtracts from it. There is no neutral. Rambling makes you forgettable. Precision makes you memorable. Machiavelli knew this. Men in general judge more by their eyes than by their hands, for all can see, but few can feel. What people perceive matters more than what's real. And perception is shaped by how you communicate. The neuroscience here is attention economics. Human attention span is limited and getting shorter. You have seconds to make an impression. Waste those seconds with filler, with unnecessary detail, with lack of clarity, and you've lost them. Meanwhile, the person who can distill complex ideas into simple, powerful sentences, they're heard, they're remembered, they're quoted. In practice, before you speak, know what you're trying to say. One clear point is stronger than 5 muddled ones. In meetings, don't speak to prove you're smart. Speak when you have something that advances the conversation. The person who talks the most is rarely the person who's most respected. The person whose words carry weight is. Cut filler from your vocabulary. Like, you know, I think, maybe, sort of. These words dilute your message. They communicate uncertainty. Remove them. When someone asks you a question, pause before answering. Not a long theatrical pause. Just a breath. It shows you're thinking, not reacting. And it makes your answer feel more considered. And learn to be comfortable with silence. Most people panic when conversation pauses. They fill it with anything. The powerful let silence exist. Silence after you've made a point gives it weight. Silence when someone else is speaking shows you're actually listening. But here's the trap. Precision can become coldness. Economy of words can become dismissiveness. The goal isn't to become robotic. It's to become intentional. Know when to be warm and expansive. Know when to be sharp and brief. The power is in range. The men who change rooms, who shift culture, who build empires, they understand that words are tools. And you don't use a hammer when you need a scalpel. Talk less. Mean more. Rule 9. Asterisk. Build systems. Not monuments to yourself. Ego builds statues. Legacy builds systems. This is where most powerful people fail. They build something impressive that requires their constant presence to function. The moment they step away, it collapses. That's not power. That's a glorified job. True power is infrastructure. Systems that work with or without you. Processes that scale. Cultures that perpetuate themselves. Machiavelli's Prince wasn't just concerned with taking power. He was obsessed with keeping it. And keeping it meant building structures that outlasted individual personalities. The psychology here is sustainability and scalability. Anything dependent on one person is fragile. Anything dependent on a system is anti-fragile. It gets stronger with pressure. Look at actual empires. Rome didn't last because of emperors. It lasted because of roads, laws, military structure, engineering. The system was the empire. In your life, at work, don't just do the job well. Build the processes that make the job easier for whoever comes next. Document, train, systematize. That's how you become promotable. In business, don't be the business. Build a business that operates whether you're there or not. That's freedom. In your personal development, don't rely on willpower. Willpower is finite. Build habits, routines, environments that make the right choice the easy choice. That's sustainability. The 1% understand this at a cellular level. They're not trying to be irreplaceable. They're trying to build things that replace the need for anyone to be irreplaceable. But there's a shadow side. Some people hide behind systems because they're afraid of being seen. They delegate because they're incompetent, not strategic. Know the difference. Build systems to multiply yourself, not to avoid accountability. The leader who builds systems is building legacy. The leader who builds dependency is building a house of cards. And when those cards fall, and they always do, everyone goes down with it. Rule 10. Never forget. Morality is not weakness. Ruthlessness is not strength. This is the rule most people get wrong when they study power. They read Machiavelli and think the lesson is to be cruel, to be manipulative, to abandon ethics. That's a child's reading. Machiavelli's actual lesson was this: understand how power works. Understand that the world is not fair. Understand that good intentions without strategy lead to ruin. But never confuse understanding the game with becoming a monster. The most dangerous people aren't the ones without morals. They're predictable. They eventually eat themselves. The most dangerous people are the ones with a clear moral code who also understand power. They know what lines they won't cross. And that clarity makes them unshakable. The psychology here is integrity under pressure. People without principles collapse when tested. They have no internal compass. Every decision is a negotiation with convenience. People with deep principles, they make hard decisions quickly because they know who they are. In application, decide your non-negotiables now, before you're in the fire. What won't you do for money? For status? For approval? Write it down, because pressure will test it. You can be strategic without being unethical. You can be competitive without being cruel. You can pursue power without sacrificing your soul. The men at the real top, the ones who build things that last, who earn respect that endures, they're not sociopaths. They're disciplined. They're strategic. But they're also principled. Because here's what the amateurs don't understand. Reputation is currency. Trust is leverage. And both take years to build and seconds to destroy. The short-term player lies, manipulates, burns bridges for immediate gain. And they might win for a season. The long-term player builds credibility, keeps their word, plays fair when they can and hard when they must. And they compound wins over decades. The warning is this: studying dark psychology, power dynamics, influence, it's dangerous knowledge. Not because it's evil, because it works. And anything that works can be used for creation or destruction. You now have the tools. What you build with them is your choice. But remember, the men who changed history, who built empires, who earned immortality through their work, they weren't just powerful. They stood for something. Power without purpose is just chaos with a crown. These 10 rules aren't commandments. They're observations. Patterns that appear again and again in the lives of people who win. You can ignore them. Most people will. They'll keep playing by the rules they were given. Keep wondering why they're not respected. Keep feeling invisible in rooms that matter. Or you can accept that the game is already being played. Whether you know the rules or not doesn't change that. It just determines whether you're a player or a piece. The top 1% didn't get there by accident. They didn't stumble into power. They studied it, practiced it, mastered it. Now you have the blueprint. What you do with it is entirely up to you. But understand this. Once you see how the game actually works, you can't unsee it. You'll notice it everywhere. In every interaction. Every power dynamic. Every room you walk into. That awareness is both a gift and a burden. Use it wisely. And if this resonated with you, if you felt something shift while listening, that's not an accident. You're ready for more. There's more to learn. More rules. More strategies. More truth. But only if you choose to see it. The choice, as always, is yours.